Okay, so now we have the completed, fully assembled model complete. So if we go into Paperspace, let's just see what we got. So you can see that it filled in the bottom right viewport, which is the completed view. So when we're done making all the views, we'll just do a little bit of cleanup here in Paperspace. But you can see we're working backwards to the assembly portion of the installation manual. Okay, so now we're going to go back to model space and start literally dissecting or taking apart this model piece by piece to show the different steps in the different viewports. So to do that, in the template we have a nice little reminder here to simply make sure your UCS is in the viewport plan VPP setting. That makes it the easiest. And you're going to be doing 5-foot offsets to the next model. So that's our little trigger. So you could either copy from this isometric view or in the 2D view. I'm going to do it from the 2D view. I'm just going to copy. We're just going to copy everything we got here and make sure ortho is on, and I'm going to copy it over 5 feet. Okay, now I'm going to start working in this model here and start dissecting. So what were the last things that went in? Well, it was the glass. So we're going to remove the glass, and without the glass, we can't seal. So we're going to take off the sealant. Okay, so this would be that second view. So you have to think to yourself, what am I showing here? What's the value of this view? Well, now you can see the logic of the gaskets, and we'll have to show the sealant work that needs to happen there. Okay, so now we have the second view. We're going to copy this model again. So we're going to take a copy. Again, ortho on 5 feet, go to the next view. And now we'll work in model number 2, and we're going to dissect some more. So now we can wonder, well, what's the value going to be in this view? What would be the last steps the shop would have done? Well, let's remove these gaskets because those wouldn't be there. So this would be probably the next view that they see. Okay, now we're going to copy once more, and just because we like to be thorough, we're going to do one more view. I'm going to copy that over, and now we're in the viewport 1 of the very first assembly view. What's going to happen? These parts will not be connected. So I'm going to take this horizontal, and we typically go about 6 inches or so. Let's see how far that goes. Just to show it somewhat, like we call it exploded view. And now you can see the two parts separated before they get assembled. Okay, so let's walk through the steps real quick and see if it makes sense with the views we have. So the parts and pieces will be cut in the shop and assembled first. Once they're assembled, the shop will see this. We could show the sealant work here that they would probably do. Then they would install gaskets, which they can see here, and we show them the logic of the gaskets. And then finally, they're going to add the glass. So that makes sense. Those are the sequence of events in this particular case. So now we go back to Paperspace, and we just have to make the model look good and make sure the views are legible, easily seen what we're trying to depict here. So now that you're in Paperspace, you're going to be just doing some panning and zooming and rotating of the model in the viewport itself. So you simply double click into the viewport. Now this is active, only this one viewport is active. I can now pan or rotate or zoom and just affect this one viewport. So that's what you're going to do. Just kind of zoom in and rotate to get the best view of this particular assembly that you're trying to show. So I'm just going to rotate a little bit more so you can see the shape of that horizontal a little bit more. And there we go. And then it's kind of a best practice, if you can, to keep the views the same. But you can see now, if I rotate this view the same, we can't see the intersection. So this one might be better to be viewed this way, so we can show that intersection and the sealant work that needs to happen there. So then I'm going to rotate this one as well, just so that way they're kind of the same rotation. And that way it makes sense to the viewer what we're showing. Okay, and that's just from experience in making these before. Now I'm going to go to the third viewport. So sorry, I need to move my paper. So now I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to rotate the view to a similar angle. And again, what am I trying to show here? It's this gasket. So I do want to zoom in a little bit more so you can see the gasket logic a little bit better. Okay, and then the fourth and final view, the completed view of the unit laying on its back with the glass fully installed. And I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. Oops, the cat is going to crash. Sorry. Okay, just zoom in a little bit more to get a nice clean look of this finished intersection. And hit PS for paper space to get out of that viewport. Okay, so now you are about 75% there. Okay, all we need left to do is add the steps, and you can see we have these kind of a leader notes just floating in space here. That's just so you don't have to recreate them. So you're going to have to just move them and point to the correct item per view that go with the steps. And we're going to type in the steps based on what we got from the team. So in this case, I got a markup from, I'm not gonna, okay, so this is the markups I got of steps for this particular transition that I got from the team. So what I'm going to do is carry this over. I'm going to type these up under each relevant view, and then each of these have a number. So I'm going to point to that object and edit the call out to have that number, so that way it coordinates. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have the steps typed in and updated the leaders to point to each coordinating item that's mentioned in the steps. One thing I did notice was in the steps, the wedge gasket actually doesn't get installed till after the glass is installed. So that's something I'm going to correct in the model, but that's just something we should be looking out for, just to make sure our models are accurately depicting the steps and what is really going to be there. So that's more accurate because the wedge gasket won't be installed till here. Okay, so that was just something I noticed as I was typing up the steps. And then I just pointed the leaders to each coordinating item. One little rule of thumb is if you can get the leaders placed in line with each other, that would be best, as well as if we can try to keep the leaders not actually laying on top of an object, that helps make it more legible if possible. So here I tried, it's a little hard when they're close together like this, so it's just a practice for quality to try whenever possible to keep the notes nice and neat and legible, not on top of the objects if possible. Okay, so now we have this whole thing here. We're almost done. The viewports here are a little small, so what I'm going to do is just double click here and zoom in to make these details a little bit bigger because they are the main event, so to speak, on this sheet. So I did that, and I'm going to move this note over here because I could not, for number 3, I couldn't show the assembly screws in the 3D views looking at it in this way. So the only way to see that would be from this view. So it's actually note number 3 and number 2. So here, I'm gonna copy this note so I can have both callouts with one leader to keep it neat. Okay, and then this one as well. I'm going to zoom in and make it a little bigger so it fills up that viewport. Okay, some paper space, get out of that. I'm just gonna move this up a little bit so it's a little bit neater inside the sheet. Okay, so there we go. This is a completed sheet. So from this point, what you would do is save this and then plot it to a PDF and have it reviewed by the team before it gets added to the installation manual. And that would be it.